Thank you for your patience while I took time away to come back with a crush. Okay. Hey you guys. So change of location. I'm in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan at my grandparents' cabin. Heaven on earth. In the summer. I'm so happy to be here. I'm gonna give you, it looks like I'm just like in an attic, which, you know, I am. There's like a Nordic track over there. If you remember that workout machine, is like you're skiing. It's like wooden skis. My parents had a Nordic track and I used to use that. So there you go. But look at this view. Look at this desk. Best desk in the world. Look out there. That's Lake Michigan. Lovely. But yes, I got you balanced on some tapes, some VHS tapes of my grandpa's. Anyway, gosh, where to start? You can tell like my whole nervous system is like, I feel so much better. Definitely still in grief over our sweet old 14-year-old English cream golden retriever Finn, who was so beautiful and the love of my life, and he was my mom's dog, but then he became my dog because I stayed with her for years. But yeah, I mean, it's helpful to leave home, to leave the house where we were caring for him, because our routines were so wrapped up in taking care of this older dog. And, you know, like, even still, like, you know, I'll see like 6 o'clock on the clock or on my phone or whatever, and I'll be like, oh, it's time for Finn's pain pill. Like, it's just, those routines just stick with you. So it's so nice to go somewhere different. It still reminds me of Finn, but, you know, because he was here quite a few times. But it's nice to have a change of pace. And just before I left, I was starting to start playing with creative stuff again. Like, I was doing some really messy painting that, like, I would never want to show anyone, but it was just so nice to move the brush around and move paint around and be like, okay, this is a mess, but it feels good. Same thing with writing, just like starting to journal again and just create messes. And it's been really helpful for me to remember that making messes is actually very productive creatively. I think I've gotten in my head, and especially I would say like with having tendinitis this spring, like I really felt the need to be like efficient. Like, if I'm going to use my hands, I want to use them efficiently. I don't want to waste it. What a weird thing. My hands still hurt, by the way. I brought like my braces up that I sleep in, just from like packing up the car to come here. Crazy. don't get tendonitis. If your hands start to hurt, rest them, please, for the love of God. But yeah, it's been helpful for me to remember, like, being messy is the way through to create art. I had gotten it into my head that I wanted to use my time efficiently, and just being here, walking around, taking in nature, feeling more like a person, it's reminded me that I have become so infiltrated by our culture of productivity that I've let it seep into my art and the way that I work, and like writing down word counts and wanting to be like really productive, all of which is helpful. But at the same time, usually the only way that you really can get to the real art and that you can make what's true to you is that you have to go through a mess. You have to create a mess. You have to experiment and create a lot of bad paintings, do a lot of bad writing, that it's actually efficient to make a mess. It's actually more productive to make a mess, because then you're going to go right into the mess and right into the gems inside of it. And so just getting going and making the ugly stuff is really helpful and freeing. So it's kind of the attitude and the spirit of things that I want to engage in while I'm here. I'm going to be here for several weeks, and we're also going to go down to Grand Rapids and see my sister and her baby, and then come back up here. So I just want to play with art. I want to make a bunch of paintings. I want to do a lot of messy writing, and continue to heal from Finn and get my nervous system back to a happy place. And I feel really lucky to be able to do that and to have a place to escape to. So I'm going to take you along with me for the journey. Guys, I finally finished this book. No, obviously it's like a perfect book, right? This is a perfect book. I loved it. I swooned. This is such a swoony book. I had no idea, and yet I should have known because she invented it, right? Jane Austen invented the swoony romance, the will they, won't they, the, oh my God, he likes her so much, but she has no idea. I love Pride and Prejudice. It was such a pleasure to read this book this spring and finish it this summer after Finney. Just in this current year of chaos and political bullshit and fear and everything, to have a pocket of civility in my life was so marvelous. Thank you, Jane Austen. Thank you to the world for keeping her voice alive. Yes, I loved this book. It almost seems silly to even say anything about it because everyone has said everything about it. But for me, it was just pure pleasure and reiterated for me yet again why I love why I love genre in writing, why I love romance in particular, the voice that it has given women in particular over the centuries, the fact that she is able to critique money and inheritance and how much money and inheritance goes into decision making with your mate, survival for women, making practical choices versus how much you are able to make a romantic choice for yourself, and then the risk of saying no to the sure thing that sucks, like Mr. Collins, in the belief that there's something else out there. The ability of a man to change with Mr. Darcy. I mean, it's just, there is so much in romance, and I think about that a lot today in terms of romance novels. And I actually have really mixed feelings about romance novels in general, just that like the covers, like the cartoon covers. And on the one hand, they're really cute, they're really eye-catching, they're really fun. And yet there's a little part of me that thinks like, because, okay, here's my split feelings. On the one hand, we've got these cartoon covers that look girly, which feels insulting, but that's how I feel. That's how a lot of people feel. They look girly. And, which really isn't an insult, but you know. And I like that because it's like, here's our secret world. Oh, you think this is just a love story. This is so much more, right? These love stories that can kind of create a safety for women to tell stories about love, again, for centuries. And yet also, there's such a belief that love stories are not for men, which is such utter bullshit, because what bigger adventure is there in your life than falling in love, than figuring out relationships, than failing at relationships, losing love. You know, so often men are given stories of adventure and, you know, the hero's journey, and it's such a mistake. I just saw, this is what's on my mind. I just saw a little headline on the New York Times talking about how men aren't reading novels as much, and you know, what a loss for humanity for men to not read novels as much, and especially to not read novels written by women, written about women. I especially think like straight men, like, what are you doing? Like, if you're a straight man wandering around being like, I don't get women, like, read a fucking book. Anyway, this is all to say, I love this book. I annotated the hell out of it. It feels like a document of this time in my life. I know I talked about this before, but I was not aware of how much inside of Darcy's brain we were going to go, especially more in the beginning of it, which sort of sets up that expectation. Yeah, I was in awe that a book this old, and again, I feel stupid saying this because everyone knows this who's read this book, and I feel late to the party, but I was just in awe of her ability to create such strong sexual tension and squirminess and moments where you expect something to happen and nothing happens and you're like, God damn it, what is he thinking? Oh, it's so good. I will return to this book again and again in my own writing. Yeah, it was wonderful. I mean, I hate to say it, like, obviously it was wonderful. Yeah, very special reading experience. And this was a fluke. This library book I'm going to show you. I went to the library, this was a couple weeks ago. I had wanted a different book and it wasn't there, and I was super crabby. Like, it said online that it was there and then it wasn't there. Blah, blah, blah. I was so crabby, and I was just wandering, you know, through the books, just being like, maybe something will jump out at me. And I visited one of my favorite more recent favorite authors. Curtis Sittenfeld. You guys, Eligible by Curtis Sittenfeld. I totally forgot that she had written this book. I have read like 4 of her books. I love her, but I wasn't going to read this one until I read Pride and Prejudice because it is a modern retelling of Pride and Prejudice. It's so funny. Like, we're just like, I love Curtis Sittenfeld. I love her. If you want a really fun, smart book, feel-good book this summer, romantic comedy. Romantic comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld is masterful. But her short stories are also so good. I read Rodham, which is a retelling of like if Hillary Clinton hadn't married Bill. I read that last year during the election. Prep, fantastic book about a prep school. She is so sharp. She writes, I don't know if I would necessarily say that she writes romantic comedy, but sort of. She's very contemporary in her writing, but it also feels so timeless. She's always like, you know, like a swan, like swimming underneath. There's other mechanics going on so beautifully in such a literary way, but her books are still terrifically fun. I just love her. I admire her so much. Let me read to you the description of Eligible. It is so fun. Okay. This version of the Bennet family and Mr. Darcy is one that you have and haven't met before. Liz is a magazine writer in her late 30s who, like her yoga instructor older sister Jane, lives in New York City. When their father has a health scare, they return to their childhood home in Cincinnati to help and discover that the sprawling Tudor they grew up in is crumbling and the family is in disarray. Youngest sisters Kitty and Lydia are too busy with their CrossFit workouts and paleo diets to get jobs. Mary, the middle sister, is earning her 3rd online master's degree and barely leaves her room, except for those mysterious Tuesday night outings she won't discuss. And Mrs. Bennet has one thing on her mind: how to marry off her daughters, especially as Jane's 40th birthday fast approaches. Enter Chip Bingley, a handsome new-in-town doctor who recently appeared on the Juggernaut reality TV dating show, Eligible. It's like The Bachelor. Yes. At a 4th of July barbecue, Chip takes an immediate interest in Jane, but Chip's friend, neurosurgeon Fitzwilliam Darcy, reveals himself to Liz to be much less charming. And yet, first impressions can be deceiving. So this is like, I knew I was gonna love this. I had read like 30, maybe 40 pages before packing for this trip and like planning everything and like before finishing this, and I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna love this book. And I just started rereading the beginning again. I love it so much. I admire this writer so much. I'm already recommending this even though I haven't read it, but I love it. Eligible, Curtis Sittenfeld. I love this author. Anyway, I just wanted to share all that with you. Yeah, what a wonderful place to read here at my grandparents' cabin. I feel like in many ways this is like my grandpa would approve, because my grandpa was such a reader and lover of literature. And yeah. And then, of course, we gotta have a little fun too, right? It's summer. You gotta have some fun reading. Yes. Oh, and what's coming up next tomorrow is we're going to Grand Rapids and we're going to visit my sister and her baby for a few days. So I think I'll take you along for that too. Again, changing locations, kind of bringing some energy back into things again. Feels good. swing. Yay. Hi friends. It's like September 2nd as I'm recording this. All of this footage that I took, haven't edited it until now. Yeah, I just didn't want to. I think I was going through a really important private period this summer, and walking the beach for hours. It was so hot. I know for a lot of people it was so hot. My brain sort of melted, and I was like, I'll just say it, I was like reinventing my relationship with God / the universe. That's not a joke, actually, even though I'm talking about it like it is. I was sort of in another world this summer, and it was really good to be private, to be reading, just missing Finn, feeling out the changes in my life, feeling out my novel. I got really out of it this winter and spring. And I found the engine again for the writing, and that was really helpful. And sometimes being private is really helpful for that. So yeah, hence we have all of these summer videos, clips, whatever, here at the beginning of autumn, sort of the beginning of autumn. But yeah, I feel like taking time away, going through grief, and just enjoying reading, enjoying nature, it kind of brought me back, and painting and baking and doing the things that we love, you know. I always talk about that, but it really does work. And something else, and I was like, do I share this? I'm gonna share it. It's just funny. Okay, here we go. Okay. Earlier this summer, I got really into the series Slow Horses. It's on like Apple TV. I don't know. It's great. It's like a spy show, but it's really funny, and it's very British and very very, very, very sharply written, actually. I don't want to undersell it with the story that I'm about to tell you. I love that show. There's a new season coming out in September. I'm so excited. But you guys, I have to switch this up like this. Oh God, there's my hand. You're welcome. Okay, so this show stars Gary Oldman, who's like a 67-year-old. He's clearly like gained a lot of weight for this role. He's gross in this role. He like heads up, it's called Slough House, where all of the sort of disgraced agents go. Anyway, and he's gross, he smells, everyone's talking about how much he smells all the time. It's so fucking funny. And he farts all the time, like he's an aggressive farter. He's just disgusting. So I was looking up Gary Oldman because I was like, God, I've seen him. He disappears so well into roles that I almost barely remember him, mostly because his bigger roles were, for the most part, when I was younger, or he's like playing Churchill or something, and I was looking him up while watching this show, and I came upon, of course, really young photos of him as an actor, and I was like, oh. And I developed this huge crush on young Gary Oldman. Like, from what I'm aware of, apparently this is not rare, that many people find him young versions of him. Okay, let's be clear. Young versions of Gary Oldman to be insanely attractive. But it was just so funny. It was so funny to have this like massive crush out of nowhere. And it's always fun to have a crush, and it's like, it's so funny because of course it's not real. It's like he's this old dude now. But it reminded me of how I've heard this before, and I've noticed this in my own life, and now you have to tell me, because I am being vulnerable and telling you about this random fucking celebrity crush that I've got. Tell me, when you have a crush, what is it that you really like about them? What is it about you that really draws you in? Because this is one of the most interesting things about human attraction, is so often, not to intellectualize this silly crush, which by the way is incredibly enjoyable and funny, but what about that person is so captivating to you is usually life sort of in your brain showing you what you want, what you find captivating in another person. I remember I used to take poetry classes with this great poet named Chelsea Diane. You can find her on Instagram. She's outrageous, really fun to follow. But she was talking once about how she realized that she was really attracted to guys who drove like black Jeeps. And at one point, it was like she was like dating her third guy with a black Jeep, and she was like, "Oh, it's not you that I like. I like your car." And she broke up with him and got herself a black Jeep. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, what is it about young Gary Oldman? Like, what is this? Because I was really drawn to like pictures of him in like when he was like a young dude, leather jackets, like greasy like 90s, 80s hair or whatever, like sort of like a Romeo type. Like he looked like a Romeo, like a young Shakespearean actor. And even in like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, our dad, like this young Shakespearean, like passionate young lover type. And of course, like many girls who were actors or in acting classes or loved Shakespeare, like, yeah, I love the Romeo type. I love the intense romance, the intense need, attraction, desire, like fuck everything, I'm gonna be a fool for love kind of energy. And it really struck me just like looking at pictures of him and going like, it's so funny that I'm feeling this way, how fucking random. And it was like, yeah, no, I want the feeling of adventure. I want the feeling of like passion and excitement and fuck the rules and we're just going to do whatever we want, and that feeling of big romance in life. And you know, it's funny, when I was an actor, particularly when I was living in LA, I remember telling a friend of mine, like, I know that like women are supposed to like want to be like the beautiful, almost like serene lead character. Like I think about like Jessica Chastain and like all the different variations of being like beautiful and like a great actor and like intelligent. And I remember telling my friend, like, I don't want to act like that. I want to be like an Oscar Isaac. I want to be like an Adam Driver. I want the adventure. I want the passion. I want the intensity. I do not want to have to be dainty. I do not want to have to be physically perfect looking. I don't want any of that. I want the intensity. And that's the attraction point for me. I mean, he's like deeply attractive to me, like no doubt, but it's the Romeo energy. It's the fuck everything, like I want you energy. And so I'm trying to like be that Romeo energy for myself in my life. And that the best place to channel that right now, and the most satisfying place to channel that right now, is in my novel. And I know that this energy, this like almost like a resurgence in me, is coming out of, I was in such a hibernation my losing my hands with tendinitis, and with the loss of Finn, and grief, and just feeling this winter and caring for him and anticipating his death. And then as time has passed, and I certainly miss him so much and like burst into tears randomly still, but I feel this energy coming back in my life. Here's the wind. And I can feel the adventure of this book and the craziness of writing this book for me. It's a crazy, scary thing to write this book for me. And I'm excited, and I can feel so many good things on the way. And what better way to close out summer than to be like, ooh, I've got like crush energy. I've got like desire energy, passion energy. I'm so excited about the hero's journey that I'm on. And like, that's it, right? It's sexual energy is creative energy. It's what do we want? What do we want? What do you see in that person? You can also do this for jealousy. If you're like insanely jealous of someone, what is it? What is it about them that is driving you nuts? You probably want some of that for yourself. Yeah. So if you relate to this, you have to tell me, because this is kind of embarrassing. So tell me, if you have a crush on someone, what is the thing that usually gets you? If you're jealous of someone, what is the thing that usually gets you? I'm really intrigued. Anyway, this is sort of an all over the place vlog. It was a beautiful summer. It'll be a beautiful fall. We're on the adventure now. All right, I'm going to try to do YouTube more often. Thank you for your patience while I took time away to come back with a crush.